We're going through troubleshooting different reactions our opponents will do. Okay, so the first one is Ed's just trying to retreat. So he's basically both hands on the mat, straightening his leg, moving back, usually trying to kick with his other leg to try to peel me off and stop me from working through from here. Okay. Now, first thing with this is you can often just get up. So if Ed's hands are there, he's scooting back. I can actually often just take my feet back and roll to get on top. I expect him to maybe try to stand, and I'm in like the front end of a wrestling scramble there, but I've got a good chance of getting on top with that. All right. If we want to go for the back here, as Ed's scooting back, then I'm going to grip the top of the thigh, and I will actually break one of the rules I said, because I will actually go deep with my elbow. Okay. It's fine to go deep with the elbow if I'm doing the forward roll into the berimbolo when I'm trying to go forwards, but if I tried to spin on the spot, my arm would get in the way. Okay, so because my shoulder's rolling forward here, it will be okay. So Ed's scooting back, I grip here, I'm gonna go deep, fall forward, and try to catch at his hip. Okay, once I get that hook on the hip, now I'm following him much better. Okay, so then it's either gonna be the back or potentially to the hip here where I push the foot up. So again, either I get to the back, which is ideal, and then I can start to chase him through, or I end up arm in front of the hip here, like so. And we're now in like the stage where we can work to take the back. So as Ed retreats, I reach to the thigh, go deep with my arm, pull through, and I try to capture the far hip with my foot to try to stay attached. If I can reach the back, that's excellent. If Ed tries to scoot back from here, I'm now going to follow him with my back grip. So I'm in the last stage of the bolo, which we'll obviously cover in the next part. And if I miss that, I can grip the hip. If I can't get so deep, so I can't, usually if I can't hook his hip, then I can't reach his back. So scoot back a little bit. Okay, then I'm going to be pushing the foot up, gripping the hip, usually wedging my knee underneath to assist here. And then again, we're in a later stage, which this is probably getting more into the berimbolo specific things, which is not really the purpose of this series, but this lets me at least get deep enough that I can start to try to fight from crab ride. Dealing with someone who folds their knee, okay? So if Ed folds his knee like this, what I used to do, which was wrong, was try to beat the knee line from here. So if we're here, I used to try to, come around to here, and I end up exposing my back too much, okay? Ed can start doing counters on me. His knee's too open, right? So instead, what I want to do, if this is the case, I'm going to block him from like crossface. Often he's reaching for, he's going something like this. So I block the crossface, and I want to pummel my other foot to the armpit early. Okay, so I look, if he's here, he's going for the crossface. I'm going to pummel this. If he's holding my leg, I have to work to pummel until I hook that armpit, right? Now I invert on the spot with this, keeping this foot in the armpit, and I want to stretch his foot away. You'll notice the knee will come back. It'll straighten his leg, and his knee line will become available. So I block the armpit, start to come up, and now with my leg, I curl back with my leg, and I pull it away with my hand as well. So from here, I stretch that out. Okay, and I now have the knee line. See, his knees, I've captured his knee line. So I block the armpit, pummel my foot to the armpit. I can step my foot on the ground if I need to. I'm going to invert, and see how his knee's flared? I can't get access yet. If I extend here, it pulls him forward, okay? And it pulls the knee line back in. I can now reach his back, okay? So sometimes you can reach the back even earlier when the knee is flared. So I've got his back and his leg. I will stretch and try to pull Ed this way, capturing the knee line by extending his leg. Okay, now I'm in good position. My knee closes off. So I've now got good positioning against his knee. I can start to lever him over towards a back take. Occasionally, in the event that the knee's flared, I spin under, and I don't feel like I can even stretch out. Maybe he's just like active at keeping his knee free. Sometimes you can let go, push with your hand, and force the knee line back in. Okay, so again, he's got his knee open. I might force that back in. and then I'm back into my chance at taking the back. If Ed blocks my leg, okay, so he can block with either his left arm here or his right arm, okay, and it's slightly different how we will manage this. Let's do the left arm first. This is the most common. So from here, I want to invert on the spot. So I'm going to, obviously I can't, it's going to be very hard to pummel this back in. It's too hard to break that grip and get it in front if that's what he's focusing on. So I'm going to invert on the spot. So with my elbow, drop it underneath, I'm gripping the ankle, I spin, I fold this leg so I don't open it to give him a space to counterattack. And I want to get my head pretty much underneath and use my left foot to capture his elbow. Okay. Right at his elbow with the left foot, he now can't stop me pummeling my foot. Okay. You see, without that, I try to pummel, he just follows. When my left foot captures his elbow, I can pummel my foot and then go underneath the far armpit here. Again, it's holding that. I block, free, hook. Okay. Now that I've got the armpit, I can start looking to pull forward and capture the back. When I want to pummel, I don't just hook the foot just over the elbow here, because often if I break that grip, Ed can come back and block again. Actually, I want to go almost a little bit deeper. So it's like the side of my ankle captures the elbow and my foot almost hooks around the tricep. It's a little harder for him to circle out of that, and I have a bit more time to pummel in when that happens. Okay, so if I go here, I go a bit deeper. I'm extending, like kicking backwards, breaking and pummeling. Okay, it's also a stronger way to break the grip. If we go back, if it's just my foot here, hold on. It's like difficult to break. If I go a bit deeper, I can extend my whole leg into it, and I get a better break to hook. He blocks with his right arm. This one, I can just block with my right hand and try to pummel back in. So I start to invert, block, and then I just start to retract that. Okay, so if I block his tricep, he can't follow. I take this leg back, and I start looking for the hip, being careful not to shoot my knee too deep. And I can come through into the berimbolo position. Sometimes your opponent will look to get into reverse half guard. So usually for that, Ed's going to hold my leg. He's going to try and get his right arm across body, okay, like this. And obviously bring his hips above my knee line. And he's in reverse half guard. All right. Occasionally you'll get people looking for a cross face too, which will show you a good counter to that as well. But for both of these, first off, if your foot's stepping on the hip, he's never going to really feel comfortable moving in close. It's only if I've lost my foot here from being on the hip, maybe I went deep De La Riva too early, he can actually start to close in the gap. Okay, so keep your foot on the hip, and as he's starting to look for that, I want to be blocking this armpit. So this This grip here is excellent because if he tries to move in towards, if he wants to get under my arm, okay, then he's got cross body control. And he could also look for a crossface here. Both of those really get blocked. Okay, try and crossface me. Okay, I lift my elbow up and I'm blocking that space. He can't really attach in deep here. And if he tries to go under, I just block my elbow low. It always stays in front. So if I get this grip, I don't really have to worry about these very much. If he's looking, if let's say we're here, it's looking to go reverse half, so try and swing over the top. Cool. Then I can start to spin under. Usually, because he's holding that, I pummel my foot in front of the elbow, extend, get to the armpit, and we're good to go. If Ed's looking for the cross face, I'm blocking first. If you want, you can just tuck your head underneath the cross face. So if I have this, I just pummel my head under. He can't really, because I open my elbow out, he can't follow that very well. And I can roll through to continue for the back, or you can start to attack the arm. Okay. So if I want here, I can change, capture the elbow. Make sure my knee is still free here. So I've got quite a shallow hook. If I do this if I do this from here, okay, this is a bit more dangerous for the pass. I'd be a bit more worried about going for this arm. But if my knee is free still and he's reaching for my head, I can capture the elbow, pulling it tight. So my forearm capturing the elbow and linking my hands together here. So now if Ed tries to pull his arm back, he can't. From there, we put our knee in front of the head. I now take my foot to the ground, lift up, and I start looking to attack the arm back. So you'll see, once I get my knee and shin in front of the head, Ed can't close the gap on me. I can put my foot to the mat to lift my hips up and over. I take my foot out, post on the mat, lift, and I start to either attack the straight arm hook here, like a prone armbar, or I can start to roll through and look for a regular armbar by spinning over the top. One counter Ed might do, as I start to spin, he spins with me and steps over, and sometimes gets back up to a standing position. Against this, if I can, I want to actually change to a deep waiter guard as Ed tries to roll with it. So I'm going to kind of stop my momentum and go back the other way. So as Ed starts to roll, I notice he's stepping over. I'm going to change into a good waiter guard position. What I'll actually do halfway through, I'm going to take my right foot to the other side and left foot to the other side. So imagine I've got my De La Riva hook, foot across. This one will go across the hip. This one will go inside the leg. So you can see if Ed just gets up here, just get up. That's basically going to allow me to be in a good waiter position, coming out towards the back. Okay. Now, it's tricky because we do this during the spin. Okay, so as Ed starts to go over, like so, my right leg comes out, left leg comes in. I reach under the leg, and I'm now in waiter. Good position here in waiter, ready to start to actually spin out towards the back. As I start to roll, Ed goes with me. I take my foot to the other side, pummel in, lift the foot up, and I'm ready to start to spin out to the back. So there was two ways that Ed could use some form of a counter bolo against me. One was if I put my knee too deep and he pushes in and he starts to take my back this way. And the other is if he manages to pummel underneath this leg with his right arm, where he can start to roll through for either leg drags or crab ride. Okay. So the first one's pretty easy. Just don't shoot your knee deep too early. Okay. We keep our knee on the near side, and we keep fighting for there, and you can't do those re-bolos. Right? Don't put your foot inside either. Okay. If you put your foot between the legs, so the foot dangling through here, then that tends to expose my back as well. So on my foot, hip or armpit, knee on the near side. The harder one to block is when Ed's trying to pummel inside this. Okay. So this is where anytime this hand is coming towards the inside, you should make that difficult by having your foot tucked. Okay. Once it's here, like you can't really do that now. It's going to be difficult because I'm like hooked. But when it's in the open, it's a risk. So I tend to have my foot tucked towards my butt and away, making that more difficult for Ed to take. Because once my foot's open, this is like hard for me to recover from. Right. As he's trying to pummel into that, anytime you notice that, you should block around the armpit. It's a little pummel here. I can use my left foot again and my right foot, but I can always try to pummel back in. If I block his armpit, he can never fully attach to the leg to the point where I can't pummel back in. Okay, so again, if I block here at the armpit, go for that same move. Okay, I can start working my foot back in and underneath. Once his armpits close the gap, so once he goes through and he's close with his deeper. Yeah, once he's here, this is going to be really bad. It's going to be hard for me to recover. But a little earlier than that, we're back here and I can block there. I've got a chance to pummel and get my foot back on the inside. Not getting caught in the saddle on this leg. Now this will happen if I go deep De La Riva and my knee's pointing up, and then Ed can essentially just pull my leg through into the saddle and look for a heel hook. My knee's pointing up when I've got a shallow De La Riva, and it's really blocking. If you try and pull me into the saddle here, Ed, it's going to be so hard to do. And I can even block the leg from beating the line of my knee if I feel like he's like active on that. Okay. Once you get your leg over, and you want to be like turning your hips down, okay? If he tries to pull me to the saddle here, he's actually helping the back take, okay? He really doesn't want to do that, okay? Once my knee points down, he's giving me a chance to do the rolling back take or the berimbolo if he starts trying to pull my knee deeper. So again, as we start to shoot our leg over, we do start to put our foot into a more deep De La Riva. If Ed wants to pull my leg through here, just continue to roll. See, my knee now points out. It'll be very hard for him to maintain the knee line, and I can then use that to expose his back. Straight foot locks and toe holds. So Ed goes for a straight foot lock. What I have is my shallow De La Riva pushing at his hip. To get any power to a straight foot lock, his hips need to be able to drive in. Okay, so he's going to lock up a straight foot lock, his hips can drive in and he's got good pressure, right? If we go back, when I have my foot, even well, in front, or in this case, underneath, hooked in front of the thigh here, sorry, in front of the hip, if Ed starts trying to put pressure, I can push his hip out this way. So, okay. So notice that. Let's turn a little, just so you can see. I just clear the foot and I start pushing back. Okay. Now he can't drive your hip in. Okay. There's no way he's going to be able to do that. That's if I'm a little bit late. Even better than that, Ed goes for the straight foot lock. I extend and I start turning to my left. Okay. I start working the block now. I now want to block this leg. Okay. If I can get my foot in front of this leg, Ed can't really isolate my leg very well. So if you start trying to bridge into a foot lock here, good. Even if you go onto your other side now, if I'm blocking his bottom leg, I can kind of stretch him out. So if I go to the deep De La Riva, and now Ed starts going for the foot lock this way, I keep that and I can actually start to stretch him out. Okay. You can see he's trying to bring your hips in. Ed. That's very difficult. And I can start to beat his knee line. So I scoot around. He might have his knee over the top. I start to beat the knee line by scooting myself around. Now I'm getting access to the back and I can start to take the back. So again, for the straight foot lock, if I have my foot in front of the hip, I feel quite confident in my defense. I can keep his hips away. If I can go a little deeper, I can get a deep De La Riva hook, scoot to the side and start to stretch him out, beating the knee line and starting to work towards the back or good top position. Now we'll look at the toe hold. Again, this knee line is going to be really important. If Ed can keep his knee in front of my hip, he can finish a toe hold. Okay. I can almost always beat that knee line though. I've got my De La Riva hook to push his hip away, and I got my hand to bring my hips over the top of the knee line. So if I can go from here, I start bringing my hip, I block the knee, bring my hips up and over. I can roll through and I jam into this wedge position we'll see later, which will give me the berimbolo. So if he keeps on it now, I start to, don't keep your leg bent because you can get some pressure. I start to kick my leg straight. So look at his hands here, above his head. You don't have great power to finish now, do you? No. Whereas if he's back here, he could start putting pressure on my leg. Okay, so as you roll through against the toe hold like this, start to, at about this point, I start bringing my knee deep and high towards his head. All right, put pressure on that now, Ed. I straighten my leg, roll through, lever him up, and reach to his back. Once I'm on his back with a straight leg, there's really no chance that he's going to finish this. I step on the back of his knee and start pulling him in to take the back. So again, from the toe hold, I keep my De La Riva hook, I scoot and push, I'm going to bring my knee deep, extend my leg, and then from here, I'm going to use my leg to lever Ed over the top. Let's just turn a little. So you'll notice Ed has the grip. I got my leg straight. I reach to his back. And the only thing that could be an issue is if I went for the back and Ed move your hips to the other side of my hips, and I swing your legs over the top, yeah, and face down, and face down this way. Yeah, this could be bad if that happened. I'd lose the back as well. So if Ed were to kick his legs over to the other side, face down, I could get some torque on that toe hold, okay? And I'd lose the back. So I'm here already. What I'm going to do is step on the back of his knee. Okay, now try and bring your hips over. Can't. I start to climb up connect the seatbelt while I'm still stepping on the knee. Once I got the seatbelt, I'm really confident now to start coming over the top and go for the back. So we covered quite a lot. Let's just go through a summary of the third stage, which is once we've got the hips to the mat, how do we get into the berimbolo position? So I start to bring Ed's hips to the mat, his hips to the mat here. All right. So I've got my shallow De La Riva hook. I'm gripping around the ankle now. So if I had a deep grip, I'm going to go back to the ankle, and I'm going to look to try and pummel my foot over the top with my knee on one side, foot hooking the far hip. All right. So a few things. So that's good, sorry. And if I can, I'm then going to come forward on my shoulder and then roll through, reaching for the far hip. So I bring my shoulder forward, invert, looking up to the roof, and grip the far hip. It's excellent. This is now the last stage, right? But a few things can bother you along the way. I'll just quickly recap the most common things. Often Ed is trying to cross face and get into reverse half guard. So my arms, one of the first things is my arm's going to block that arm, hand on the far scapula, elbow on the near side, and I'm going to bring my knee over the top, past the knee line from there, capturing the knee line, and then roll through. If I'm finding I'm blocked, if Ed's blocking my leg, which is extremely common, then from here, I'm usually going to invert on the spot. Okay, so from here, I'm going to look to come forward with my shoulder a little bit, elbow underneath my hips, and roll through. From there, it's a pummeling battle, usually hooking in front of the elbow here, extending, and pummeling behind the armpit. Okay, this same movement will apply if he's flared his knee out, and a few different scenarios. It's a very shallow De La Riva, focusing on hooking the armpit first, then starting to look to capture the knee line second, which is often by extending my leg, kept holding the ankle, extending my leg to take his knee inside, capturing the back, or if I miss that, to go to the hip and push up, okay, to push the leg up, cup over the hip, and work behind the knee line, where I can start working into the bolo position again. All the while, during these actions, being wary not to swing wide with the leg, always having that leg tucked, and if Ed starts trying to pummel to the inside or control with this hand, I need to be constantly focusing on blocking this arm, usually around the armpit, to start getting my foot towards that armpit. So generally, unobstructed, my foot will hook around the hip. If Ed's blocking this leg with either arm, this arm or with the other arm, my eventual aim from here is going to be to capture the far armpit, where I know that leg's kind of the most hidden. So it's hardest for him to deal with, and I can keep it there pretty much throughout the rest of the movement. All right, we're now going through the final phase, so we want to take the back from the bolo. Okay, what positions we work from? We're going to go through them. Three main scenarios. So Ed's up on his hands here, which is quite common. A lot of people will be up on their hands fighting like that. Sometimes people will lie down and try to kind of fight from here. Or, and we go back up, so it could be Ed's up on his hands, but or even lying down actually, to be honest, but I'm a bit more shallow, just what we would do in a scenario like this. Okay. There is one other position throughout this De La Riva series where we could have ended up, which is where Ed was standing up. We already kind of covered how to look to take the back from here, but also in the reverse De La Riva section, we will end up in this kind of crab ride standing style position. So check that reverse De La Riva section for more details on that. Let's first deal with a scenario where Ed is lying flat. Okay, so Ed's going to lie down flat. And so often people do this when they're trying to like push your legs and block your legs climbing, okay? But we've managed to, during our bowler, get our leg in position, okay? So I've got my knee across, foot across the hip, and I roll through here, okay? Right, now, in the scenario where Ed's lying down, as I roll through, I will take my knee deeper, okay? So I'm gonna roll through, and I'll take my knee deeper here, like this, okay? So you can see, I get my knee pretty much across his chest, and my hip is gonna be wedged into Ed's hip here, like this. So I want this really tight here. One thing you can think about, almost like you're stepping under their armpit with your foot, okay? If you think about that, you'll probably have the right angle for this. My left leg wants to capture, so this one wants to capture Ed's knee line, okay? Like this, right? So I want to be, if I'm here, I want to go a little closer to the knee line. This essentially stays where it is, so I keep my right leg exactly where it is. I don't move that, and I lever Ed's hips over my leg with my left leg. And this is going to lift his hips up and expose his back to me. Okay. So this is the main way we would do the berimbau. We call this like the wedge. And there's a lot of mistakes people make with this. Okay. You have to keep this leg tight, pulling back against the hip and stepping down like so. Okay. So as you can see again, this is locked in place, and as I extend, Ed's hips lift up and over the top and exposes his back to me. So common, I see people try to push with both legs. As soon as I take my right leg away, if I do that same kick, it does not expose his back, because I'm not like levering his hips up like I was before. By having this fulcrum in, which was my leg, and I push down, it levers the hips up. Okay. So this leg should stay where it is. The next most common mistake is people try to face their opponent's back. So if you notice here, when I do this, I'm actually going to almost do like a John Wayne sweep. I put my feet pretty much together, and I turn my hips actually to my left, lifting my hip in the air. See how my right hip actually starts to come up, which exposes his back even more to me. Very common. It makes sense, but it's wrong. It makes sense intuitively to start to expose the back and then turn to face Ed. And look, I start losing my right leg from being that fulcrum. Okay. As soon as I turn like this to face Ed, this leg's not active anymore. I need this hip tucked in tight so I can lever him over the top and even be turning my hips this way to actually kind of tilt his hips even more to face away from me. Another extremely common mistake is to go too wide. Now, if Ed turns his knee inwards, he starts to face me, and I've lost the back. Okay, so he can turn his knee in against this by being at the knee line here. So see, I've captured the knee line with a back heel. If Ed tries to do that same turn in, he can't. I can lever him over. Going wider allows him to. So we start to come through, I reach for the back, Ed falls onto his back. I bring my knee deep, my other leg capturing the knee line. I step my foot with my knee facing the ground. I lever Ed's hips up and over. Once we're here, my right hand will reach above the trap. So once we're here, my right hand will grip his trap. Left hand grips the hip. I change feet, so I've trapped his leg. I bring my chest behind the back. I look for the seat belt, and I can start inserting my second hook. So I roll through, I capture my leg. If I can, I reach to the far hip beforehand. If not, even if Ed falls down, I'm going to roll through, shoot my legs deeper. Once my knee's here, I'm going to point my knee to the roof, lever Ed's hips over the top, capture the back, get my bottom hook, top hook as I secure the seatbelt. doing, like in the previous section where we were against someone who's up on their hands. So we've managed to capture the knee line and hook through to here. All right. So in this scenario, it is dangerous for me. I can do it, but I want to make sure I've got good grips first. It is dangerous to shoot my knee line through because Ed could possibly counter me if he's sitting up like this. Okay, he could push in and go for my back. So I want to actually keep my knee free and hook with my leg. So I'm actually going to lever Ed's hips up with my knee pointing under his hip. I can actually start to like elevate. Okay, so as I start to straighten this leg, I can start to lift Ed's hips up. Okay, and it's actually okay as well from here. Ideally, you do have the knee line captured and you go like this, but sometimes, like right now, I don't have as good ability to stretch him out. Sometimes a little wider lets me stretch his weight up and out. See his hips lifting up. Okay, so I want to bring his hips in front of me. Right, so I'm going to keep this attached. This stops Ed from being able to turn, keeps him quite stuck. Okay, I'm like pushing back against him, and my knee's lifting his hips up. Okay, so as I lift my hips, my knee elevates his hips. I'm stretching him out, and I'm going to reach behind the leg here. Okay, not at the calf. I see people reach for this. Doesn't really capture his hips. Right, if I reach to the knee, I can more pull his hips with me. Okay, so I'm going to pull like this on his hips. I'm going to stretch him forward with my leg, so my hand and my leg, pulling Ed forward. My hand behind his back is also going to bring him forward, and his hips will throw over the top of me, here like this, okay, towards the back. So I'm just showing from this angle so you can see my forearm locked behind the back because that's important. So my hand's here pulling, my leg is pulling, my right leg's extending, bringing the hips up, and my forearm helps push Ed's hips lower than my hips here, down towards the back. From here, obviously I've got my hook already, and I can take the back. So you see my right foot went from the armpit down into to being a hook. So you beat the knee line, capture the far hip, stretching the leg out and forward with a back heel and my hand gripping behind the back, keeping good pressure and tension, pushing Ed backwards and his hip forward with my knee. Okay, I reach for the far knee, everything's tight, I throw him over the top in front. This becomes a hook as he goes down, and I will take the back. Just to cover this because it could lead into crab ride. I'm not going to cover crab ride. It's not a full berimbolo series, although I'm going pretty deep into the somewhat linear berimbolo from getting the hips to the mat. But often we went for the back, we missed it, and the best we could get was the leg. This could be Ed was lying down, or it could be up on his hands like he is now. Okay, so I lie down. It could be that I've gone here, or it could be that he was up like he was before. Now, as I said before, we push the foot up so that we've got good ability to get a good overhook with this arm so that he can't back away too easy. And I usually put my leg behind, okay? From here, we often have the ability to climb into either the bolo, like we just did. So from here, once I collect this, I can often reach the far leg, shoot my right leg deep because he's flat, and I get to that same wedge position we had earlier, okay? So I can kind of hop up, and it's like a stagnant position that just keeps me in place for a moment. I grab the far leg, so my right leg, I'm kind of pinching, keeping me attached here. And I'm going to change to the far leg, lift up. I take my left foot to the knee line, right leg to the hip line, and I do this wedge to expose Ed's back. If Ed is sitting up, I do the same thing with my legs here. I reach to the far leg, and then I'm going to extend Ed towards me. So like by pushing my legs this way, it drags his hips closer. I can get back to taking the grip over the back. Okay, so I go around the back to the far hip. So again, Ed's scooting away. I can't reach his back, so I take this leg. I get my legs in position. I drag him in, capture the back, and then I can bring my leg up, foot in front of the far shoulder here, and we're in our position to start to take the back against him sit.